everybody, welcome to Wild Boy Movies, the place to talk movies, and today we're going to be reviewing My Little Pony, Equestria Girls, Legend of Everfree, the fourth and final film of the Equestria Girls franchise. Right now I'm going to have some information up on screen for you to read, like director, runtime, and PAA rating. All of that will be up on screen for you to read right now. And before we get into this review, I just want to give out this disclaimer. This video will be the last MLP video with this particular backdrop. I've redesigned it, so you'll see that new setup whenever I talk about MLP next, which I don't know when that'll be. But be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment down below your thoughts on Legend of Everfree. But without further ado, let's get right into the pros. Alright, starting off, the biggest praise that I can continue to give these Equestria Girl movies is going to be continued here with Sunset Shimmer, because I do think that she is done pretty well in this movie and is continuing to be a really great character, and in fact, my favorite of the Equestria Girls lineup. In fact, if we're going to go ahead and talk about characters in here, I gotta give big praise to Twilight, aka the Twilight Sparkle variant from the Equestria Girls universe, just because I felt like they gave her a good arc in here, even though it is a repeat of the redemption arc that Sunset Shimmer went through in Rainbow Rocks. But here, they did enough to differentiate the Sunset Redemption arc to this Twilight Redemption arc, because she's dealing with the trauma of becoming Midnight Sparkle from the previous entry of the series. And when our main characters start to get their powers through the geodes, I liked how Twilight was like, I don't want to use my powers because it would mean the return of Midnight Sparkle. In fact, it's similar to how the MCU is handling the character of the Sentry, where in Thunderbolts, by the end of the movie, Bob, who is the Sentry, is reluctant to become the Sentry once again because it would be a greater risk of his alter ego, the Void, returning. That same idea and mindset is applied to Twilight for her new telekinesis powers and the return of Midnight Sparkle, and I thought they handled that pretty well in this movie. I also do really like this summer camp setting that they went ahead and gave for this movie. The past three movies, it was just at the Canterlot High School. It's nice that they went ahead and gave a different setting to the series by setting it at this summer camp. And bringing it back to what I mentioned earlier, the geo powers that our characters get, I do think it's a good inclusion in here. Sure, they do kind of like have a lazy explanation on why they even have these geode powers, with Sunset saying that they were meant to have them all along, but I still liked how they were accurate to these characters and what their powers would be. I mean, Rarity has like diamond shields, Rainbow Dash has super speed, and Pinkie Pie can turn like sprinkles into bombs. And even though we didn't get much on the pony version of Sunset Shimmer, I do like her ability to like read minds and like go through people's memories. Like, that honestly felt like a big, major plot point that would come back later on in one of the Equestria Girls specials, particularly Sunset's backstage pass. Also, the music in here is also pretty good. Like, you do got some really good musical numbers in here. My favorite had to be Embrace the Magic that happens, like, middle towards the movie. It's still not up to the quality of, like, the first two Equestria Girl movies in terms of, like, the soundtracks, but here, it's still pretty good nonetheless, and definitely playlist worthy. Also, I did really like the running gag with Rarity, where she's only obsessed with having a fashion show as part of this camping trip. Like, honestly, like, that was just kind of funny in itself, as well as the ongoing, like, joke of the new pier/deck that the Canterlot High students build for the camp constantly getting destroyed. Like, the old one broke. That's where they led to the new dock getting built. And then whenever Gloriosa becomes a pure villain, that deck gets destroyed. And then the post-credit scene, Pinkie Pie accidentally explodes that. And I don't know why, it's just funny in my opinion. But that's just some of the good humor that this movie has. But really my biggest pro with this movie, and it's one I've already mentioned, is how Sideswipe deals with the aftermath of the friendship games and her becoming Midnight Sparkle. Like, I felt like that they did that very well in here. And again, I know I already mentioned it, but I feel like that part of the movie was the best part of the movie, and just honestly, in my opinion. And overall, yes, this is a really solid movie, and surprising because this was the one from like the trailers for the movies. It had me the least interested, but this ended up surprising me. But there are still some things in here that kind of held it back from being as good as like the first two Equestria Girl movies. So let's just get right into those cons. Now, honestly, I don't really have that many cons for the movie. There are just not that many things I didn't end up liking for the movie. But one thing did stick out, and that was the villain of the movie, Gloriosa Daisy. Now, I do think that she is a better villain than Principal Cinch from the last movie. But in terms of like the other villains that we got in the Equestria Girl series, that does include the specials, I feel like that she is on the lower tier of those villains. I mean, her motive for being evil is just she's at risk of losing this summer camp just because she wasn't able to make payments. So she uses those geodes in order to keep the camp under like this tree dome. Like, honestly, that motive was kind of like very weak to me. But I honestly do think that Gloriosa is a good or decent villain of this series, just in comparison to like the other villains that we got in this Equestria Girls franchise. She's just on that lower tier, but still better than Principal Cinch. But honestly, that really is the only con I have towards this movie. Everything else in here is just really good and well done. And I kind of wish they went ahead and made a fifth Equestria Girls movie, but I can't really complain because we did get the continuation of the series through the specials and shorts. But still, overall, a really solid entry for this particular MLP franchise. So for my scorecard, I'm going to give Equestria Girls Legend of Everfree 4.5 stars, with the score out of 10 being 9.5 out of 10, with the percentage being 95%, with a grade of A, with my final verdict being the most surprising entry in the series. But that was my thoughts on the Equestria Girls movie Legend of Everfree. I want to hear from you guys. What are you guys' thoughts on this particular movie? Go ahead and leave that down in the comments section, and while you're at it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and reminder, this is the last video of this particular MLP setup. The new one will be revealed in my next MLP video, whenever that be. But until then, have a great day.